I'm Sam Sibalum, and this is the Break Life Extra on Dominion Television. We begin with a tragic development from Borno State. Reports indicate that Boko Haram has attacked a military base, resulting in the death of an army general, several soldiers, and brigade Islamic cleric. What do we know about these circumstances of this attack? What does it reveal about the current state of security operations in the Northeast? And how might this shape ongoing efforts to contain insurgency? That is our daybreak gist this morning. We'll also bring you the weather report and shortly after daybreak news with the major developments shaping the day.
And I'm Manulu Akpo. We then turn our focus to the newspaper headlines and analysis. And this morning's front pages reflect a mix of security concerns, political development, and public reactions. We also take a closer look at the major stories and perspectives they present.
And our big story looks at the country's electoral preparedness. INEC records massive new voters, but is the system ready? With increasing voter registration numbers, the question shifts to capacity. Can the system manage to scale it, ensure credibility, and maintain public confidence in the process? Joining us for that conversation is Afolabi Afolami, a public affairs analyst.
And before we close this morning, Trendwatch will highlight the stories and conversations gaining traction across the country.
So, it's a morning of serious reflection today.
Definitely. Let's begin.
We shall begin.
Good morning.
Good morning to you all. It's very nice to be always be on this table to talk about Nigeria as a country.
Right.
Stories, developed stories actually, because some of these stories are developing, and some of them are familiar stories on the pages of the newspaper, but they keep reoccurring, and that is why we want to talk about the Boko Haram attack on a military base in Borno State, and why an army general was killed, and definitely some other Islamic soldiers, brigade Islamic cleric, lost their lives in all of this. But then before we go, it's still Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television, Daybreak Live Extra, and we are still here talking about the recent attack and the overrun of a military base in Borno State by Dogori. Now that brings us to the question about credibility amongst Nigerian generals, and also how do you source for information which is credible intel, and of course how do you have a military base and then Boko Haram that we are said to be gradually overcoming then overruns a military base, kill a general, and then leave so many injured. It's a very big one actually. But then if the Nigerian army is facing all of this at the battlefront, okay, how do we bridge the gap between insurgency and security in the country, because it's becoming more and more of a problem. We spoke about this yesterday, that there is now an infiltration of bandits into some states in the north central, and then of course it will trickle down to the southwest and some other parts of the country if care is not taken. Now, military generals are losing their lives. So if a military general loses his life at the battlefront, you can imagine how many serving soldiers under his watch have actually lost theirs too in this cause.
Honestly, it's really sad. And then when I saw the story, I don't know how to behave when I actually read the story, because this is not the first time that a brigadier general will be murdered in cold blood. It's not even up to 6 months that a particular general was killed too, and then they butchered his body into pieces, and then it was a gory sight. And then they even wore his uniform to make videos, and they posted those videos just to show that okay, we actually killed this person. In case some of you are not, maybe you don't believe the story, something like that too. And then even recently, a particular general, I think last year in 2025, in February, a particular general was also abducted from his own hometown. I'm talking, I think, General Siga now was abducted from his hometown. And the Nigerians are panicking to say that if a general can be killed in that manner, what is the faith, of people, of the commoners, of Nigerians who cannot even carry arms? And then one more thing is, I read the report, I'm not sure whether that is true, that at the point when the brigadier general wanted to escape, the armored vehicle did not start. I mean, the army is here to whether I say that is true or not, but then that was what we read. And so it speaks to certain issues. While some Nigerians are divided on that matter. Some are saying, could it be a case of sabotage? Maybe internal sabotage to see that, okay, maybe the vehicle will not, you understand what I'm trying to say now? Is it that some persons in the army
because
on that camp...
that kind of vehicle should be an emergency vehicle.
Exactly.
You go there, you start once, and it takes you wherever
It takes you where you go. So if that vehicle started, maybe that man would have escaped that death, but then he didn't start. And some are just saying maybe it's a case of sabotage. Some are saying, could it be a case of fear? Some are saying, could it be a case of maybe it just developed in maybe an issue? Because, I mean, vehicles are just like human beings. It won't tell you it's going to break down. It might give you signs. So these are the things that we need to look at. The army should do a proper investigation. But then one sad thing is that we might not get to know the reason, the exact reason why that vehicle did not start. And then if you can get the reason why the vehicle did not start, maybe we can take it from there. Because, I mean, these people were there. That's not their first time, to be there. So why is that an attack happened? They didn't get a clue of it, and then people died. The brigadier general died, and then a lot of soldiers also died. It's a problem in this country. And then we've been on this for the last 17 years. I think it's since 2009. And then even these people, they have grown so much. They now have powerful splinter groups like the ISWAP. Who knows? Maybe there's even another group out there that we are not even aware of. So it appears that we do not have what it takes, sadly, and that's what the entire world believes, that we don't have what it takes to actually tackle this. But then some Nigerians still believe that we have what it takes if we can actually, fish out, those who are sabotaging the effort of these people, really.
So I guess this brings to mind, it brings to remembrance the issue of a general that was also killed, I think earlier this year or last year, I can't remember when exactly, that tried to reach out to authorities to say, this is where I am, please come and rescue me. And eventually he was maimed, he was killed by the same people. And so this brings a reflection to say, maybe not for comparison, but just to consider what is obtainable in the other parts of the world. So recently, I know everybody, we are abreast of this, that a US airman, who was on board F-15 fighter jets, was shot down by Iranian forces, two of them actually, but they escaped because they used the propeller inside the aircraft to escape. So one was rescued immediately, the other was not rescued right then. So there was a search patrol. In fact, 2 raids, according to the US, according to Donald Trump, that later found him somewhere badly wounded, but injured, but it was still able to still stay in some of the areas, I think in a mountainous place, so he just hid himself and they were able to rescue him. Meanwhile, it wasn't just the United States that was looking for their airman. The Iran was looking for the man. In fact, they even put like a bounty that anybody that gets to see this man would get this much. And it became a thing that 2 fighting nations are looking for 1 person. And I began to ask, it's a colonel, by the way. And so in the case of the Nigerian person that was killed, Brimo, is also a general. So I was trying to look at the response of the army, the US army, and the response of the Nigerian army. And it's nothing to write home about. It's nothing to compare, really. But we must also say that if someone had risen through the rank and file of the military to that position of being a commander or being a general, and the person has to lose his life just like that, it's really unacceptable. We just spoke about the case of this guy, Olamilekan, that came out to talk about the use of the army, especially with welfare and all of that. And there were a lot of questions as to, this is not what you should do because it can down the morale of the Nigerian army, which is accurate. But the question now is, which is more downing? Which will down the morale of the army in itself, in its entirety, than this? Because this is a situation we call decapitation, and decapitation in this kind of thing is taking the head from all of that. So if you take, for example, one of the sins you don't want to experience in life is to be a young child and then see your father killed in your presence. It is not just a thing of the suffering, the emotional suffering you go through. It's also the trauma of the fact that you saw your father die in your presence. And not just that, it also tells you that whoever kills my father can kill me too. So for the army, if my general was killed that way, then what is my lot? So I'm trying to speak to the morale of the army, because it's all about the morale for the army. So that's why they are so intentional For example, the dismissal of Olamilekan was sure to come. And this is not a way to say what Olamilekan said is right. But we mentioned that day that if there's a claim, if there's a welfare claim or something, let's tackle that issue, even as we have done with Olamilekan. Let's not just brush it under the carpet and let it sweep there. No, let's take a concrete assessment of the issues that he had presented. It's an opportunity to develop the army, right? We talked about welfare, and it's something we are still talking about. Now, just like she mentioned, too, that there's a chance that one of the vehicles that should rescue him was not working. This is not even a thing. Meanwhile, I really do not have all the briefs, right? But yesterday, I could count about 10 big vehicles taking or bringing armored tankers and some vehicles, basically for the military, because the call was there, from Ibadan to Lagos. I witnessed it with my very own eye. And I was very impressed with that because I saw this is like a supply and ammunition. I count like 10, and inside one big vehicle that's conveying them, we had like 2 armored tanks and maybe 1 other like Jeep, right? So that was what I saw. And I was like, okay, so this is impressive. But beyond all of this, are there other things we are looking at too? Because if we have to lose a general, the morale of the army is at stake right now. And this insurgency is not stopping anytime soon because of what we've seen. So we see, I think one of the things I also want to speak to is the issue where the defense headquarters spokesperson, that's Michael Onoja, came out to say some things, and I wasn't really pleased with it. One, he didn't quite name or mention the number of people that were killed, which is the thing. It could be a security detail that they don't want to put out. One, that's okay. But what about the fact that he said, according to him, in fact, let me quote him the way he said it, that those guys were trying to do a reprisal. They were trying to get back at them because they have lost already. I don't see a way you say these people have lost when they can raid a base and
mobilize that much
if
to
there's
overrun a military base.
Exactly. If there's a place that is more scary in the country, it should be the military base. For an average civilian, you don't want to go near. Because you understand this is a sacred kind of place. So for an insurgent to now come together and say we want to get into this place and then kill a general, it's a lot. It shows that these guys have the guts. These guys have the effrontery to do this. They are not scared of anything. And it tells a bigger story and a bigger picture to the armies that are still working for the Nigerian government, for the Nigerian nation, right? It tells them that if your Oga can be killed, then anytime you can expect the same. So I just want to say that while we talk about morale boosting for the army, let's ensure that decapitation does not occur at that level. Because if it does, what you are trying to fight against in terms of demoralization is what is going to happen to your entire army. And so we should not just see this as one of the things. I saw that the president also spoke about this. And everything was like, this man is a courageous man. Beyond leave the courage. I wish I could say it in a better way. Yes, the courage to die. No, let it be the courage to really serve the country with the best of equipment, with the best hands, with the best training. Let it be that this is going to yield that whatever courage I'm putting on the spot, right? It should yield positive. It shouldn't just be because I'm thinking. So what about this guy, Brimo's children? What about his wife? What about his family members? How do you want them to feel? Someone who probably I was talking about the rising through the rank and file. Maybe he has been deployed to one of these camps before, the insurgents, all of these people. He had fought and then now he's now a general, and he's still somewhere in the base, at the base, right? And then he was killed right there, and this is really unacceptable.
A lot is happening in the military, and then I want to think like an average Nigerian would think about if there's a conspiracy theory within the Nigerian army. And let's take it back a little bit and talk about some of these generals and high-ranking military officials who have lost their lives in the fast fight against Boko Haram and some other insurgencies, of course, in the country. Now, let's talk about Ibrahim Atairu. He was a lieutenant general, and of course, that time, he was the chief of army staff, high-ranking 7 officer in the Nigerian army at that time. But he lost his life. What happened? It was that he died in a military plane crash en route to Kaduna. And the context was that though not killed directly in combat, his death occurred during active leadership of war against Boko Haram. In fact, he was unpicked by the then president for his courage, that he was really active against Boko Haram. So they needed someone who was going to edge that place and then, maybe decimate the capacity of Boko Haram in the northeast and some other northwestern states. But unfortunately, during that period, he lost his life in a military, helicopter, and he died. And some said at that time that there is a probability or a chance that this man was taken out of the way But nobody really said anything about that, and it was swept under the carpet. Away from there, Muhammad Abu Ali was a lieutenant colonel, and he died in year 2016. Was killed in combat during an operation in Borno State. Also, due to lack of credible intel, or maybe someone fed, Boko Haram or ISWAP another information different to what he had. And of course, during that battle, he lost his life. He was leading his men. And so, we can say that while leading his men against Boko Haram and ISWAP, he also died. Now, Ibrahim Sakaba was a lieutenant colonel, and he died in 2018. Killed during Boko Haram attack on a military base in Borno State. Another repeat of an overrun of a military base where a lieutenant colonel lost his life. Now, Kingsley Eleme was a colonel, and of course he died in 2019. He was killed in an ambush near Jakana in Borno State. An ambush. So who should have more intel if not the military? So if Boko Haram could set up an ambush, it means that there was an information before and that they were going to go through these routes and they waited for them. So for me, I think, and if we can mention names, Danjuma Ali Kefi, as widely reported, also was a major and died in 2014, was killed during an ambush by insurgents. This for me is an headache. Because it's clear now that there is something bigger happening within Nigeria that nobody is talking about. So some people are much more powerful. Probably the benefit of their feeding fat on the wealth of the nation, and that has to do with insurgency in the country. They make so much money that it doesn't have to end. Because once it ends, their source of living, their cash cow is dead. So it really saddens me that if you now say a colonel lost his life in an ambush, a general lost his life in a battlefield where his own military base was overrun by Boko Haram or ISWAP. It tells you that thousands of Nigerian young men have lost their lives. Because if you just mentioned that the military spokesperson barely spoke about those who died, right? They more or less like they just brushed this aside like nothing happened. I was talking to someone. I don't want to be Semitic or try to talk about a particular tribe but I want to make it as an example. I was talking to someone and I said, look, so number of people died and so person from one particular region. I don't want to really speak about it that way. But then, so does that mean that those from that region you are mentioning, are they not human beings? Okay, so why not say, oh, we lost so number of men during an accident, rather than report it as, oh, some people died and some people from so region. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that let's be clear, let's be factual, let's see what the details are. How much damage has Boko Haram done to the Nigerian military? And how can we revive this the Nigerian military and make it as functional as it used to be? Nigeria used to have ECOMOG that would leave Nigeria and go on a peacekeeping mission in other countries. It happened in Liberia. Just recently, Liberia is just too far away. Just recently, there was a coup in Benin Republic. Attempted coup. And within a blink of an eye, Nigerian army was there, sent a fighter jet, blah, blah, and then normalcy was restored in Benin Republic. The same attempt was made in Nigerian Republic, but then due to diplomacy and some other things, they had to withdraw. But then they could have actually done something if they wanted to. So I think the president, shied away from an invasion of Benin Republic and their sovereignty at that time. So he withdrew from the pressure by ECOWAS for him to actually come and, do something. But the point I'm trying to make before I let Yemi munch on this is that it's becoming more and more of a reoccurrence. We have seen this happen on it's like we are repeating the same script. And then if you are repeating the same script, you are acting the same movie. So why not put an end to all of this and let us all go back to the drawing board? What exactly is the problem? Is Boko Haram now bigger than the Nigerian army? Nigeria is about 250 million people, yeah? And then we have about 6 different geopolitical zones. And about 3 of these geopolitical zones has been overrun by Boko Haram and ISWAP. So why can't we just contain it? Just like I said yesterday, let's contain it within the confines of those places and then try to solve the problem before it becomes a problem for other regions. The Southwest is now about to bear the brunt of the lackadaisical attitude of the Nigerian government in not being able to attend to security challenge in that part of the Northeast, for example. There has been a little bit relative quiet in the Northwest a little bit. But if you see the Northeast now, in fact, we call some places in Nigeria ungoverned spaces. So if there's no government presence in those places, am I to go there to govern it? No. The government, the president should just look into how can we make these places feel the impact of the Nigerian government. Okay, we should just end all of this once and for all.
Honestly, it's really sad. And then you've said a lot about the entire thing. And then for people who can actually read between the lines, they can actually pinpoint certain things why it's been difficult for the Nigerian army to actually, nip this in the bud. It's obvious, even to the blind. And then I remember that there was a time we read a particular headline, and then that headline said they are going to release the list of those who are sponsoring these people.
Well, maybe that was released by the Saudi Arabian government
exactly.
At that point, and then there was an intel, a list from the American government. Do something about this. Since then, nobody has said him about it.
And I don't think we are going to ever see that list, because if we can have that list, maybe it will give us, enough information to actually know who to face about this entire matter. And I remember that Soldier Boy also said something. He said they buy boots, they buy armor, they buy vest, with their own money. And then some Nigerians said, oh, he's a liar. But then another ex-soldier, a lady actually released another video and said what he's saying is actually true. She said she had to pay for her own boots instrumentally. And then it doesn't make sense. It's pure craziness, because how do you explain that soldiers have to, out of the money they are collecting, because according to soldiers, we don't know whether that's true. 105,000 or something?
It was just increased to
109,000.
Usually it was 51,000 naira before then, and then it was increased.
And then another 20K.
And usually, when they are on battlefield, if you have been seconded to maybe Borno State or somewhere in the northwest to face insurgency, you get 5,000 naira on a daily basis for your upkeep. But then some people sat on their money and started giving them 45,000 naira monthly. So now imagine 5,000 10 times 30. That's a lot of money. And someone decided to cut all of that and then give them 45,000 naira monthly.
Is that not 150,000 naira instead?
Honestly, that's why I say if they explain Nigeria to you and you understand, honestly,
you've been here before.
You've been here before, honestly. And then I saw another headline just few hours before the headline about the Brigadier broke, that says Tinubu raises ex-militant funding by 50 billion naira to 115 billion naira. Ex-militants. Nigerians are asking, these people, they've said, and they are out of the system. Why is it that Tinubu is raising their funding? What happens to those who are still serving?
They're paying them to keep quiet.
Who are complaining about ammunition? There was one senator that raised an alarm to say that some soldiers fled a particular scene because they do not have the necessary equipment to fight the Boko Haram. And then we are raising the funding of ex-militants. Some Nigerians are even saying they've concluded in their head that it's political. Maybe the government needs them for one thing or the other. It doesn't make sense. I remember recently the US, they released a statement to say, beware, they were talking to their citizens, and especially their embassy. The Abuja embassy is closed as we speak now because of the insurgency that is going on in the country. And Nigeria federal government responded to that by saying, oh, that's just internal protocol. There's peace all around. And I'm like, what's going on? Even a baby can understand that, there's a lot is going on in this country. So we try to cover a lot of things. I remember there was a time that an attack happened. I think the United States attacked Sokoto, for instance, and then I think Shore and the likes came out to say that the federal government was not in the know. And then the federal government said, no, we were informed before they actually came. So who do we believe in that situation? Because, the United States announced the attack before the federal government in our own country. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I believe we actually have what it takes. A country like Nigeria that helped other countries to solve insecurity. How bad can it be since 2009? How bad can it be that we cannot find a solution to whatever it is that is going on in the country? Internal sabotage, I think, is the major problem of the Nigerian army. To be very
let me also add to that, and what I would say is what we've also highlighted, and that's the lapse in communication, especially with the Nigerian military. The defense headquarters. I remember there was a time they said there was an attempted coup and all of that. They debunked it. Later we discovered it was actually true. There was a plan to do that. But anyway, that's by the way. Other information, we've been waiting on some information even in recent times, and then all we see then is this is not true. They debunk a lot of things. What they are supposed to really tell, we don't get to hear them. So let me just quote Onoja when he was speaking to this. She said the attack This attack is a clear indication of desperation of terrorist elements who, having suffered significant losses in recent operations, and this is what I don't like anyway, continue to resort to futile and ill-fated offensive against well-defended military positions. That was what he said. And I say that this English does not really tackle what we are seeing. It's different. It's like you're saying these guys are now coming for a price house. They've been attacked. They've been done. If the statement of the military is so strong enough, they don't burn them where may they enter that base, military base. So if they can enter, it means that what you're saying is really far from what is exactly obtainable in the country. And maybe just to speak to what the president said, and I think I'm going to hold the president on this. He said, it was when he was speaking about the person that was killed, I mean, the general, Brimo, he said that Nigeria will not forget this. And I really want to put it on paper, and I want to note it today that the president said that, please, may this country not forget the effort of those fallen heroes. And it's not just about giving their families money. It's about making sure we don't have recurrency. We don't have a repeat of this. We don't have our military men dying. It wasn't just Onoja that was killed, though. In fact, it was a coordinated attack, one in Borno and another in another place. And it was almost at the same time. It's more like these people can actually communicate on times that they need to do these things. They have intel, like you say. They know what they are doing. They know how to carry it out, and they know how to be successful about this. Many times we've seen where there will be a fight, a feud between them. We see a lot of gun battles, but we don't get to see these guys. They don't parade their dead bodies. I don't like to say that public, but it's also true. What we just get to know is that we've lost men. And then what about those people? Did we kill anybody? Did we kill any of them? Or are they so invincible that we cannot even touch them? They can't just stroll into the military base and then stroll out again, killing our people. It's high time we change our approach to this. Let the body language of this administration and the government be so clear to insurgents that we cannot accept what you're doing, and we will not even joke with you. And you know, it will also, if we want to comprehend maybe this situation, we can take it to the complex side of saying there's something called repentant bandits, and that is, even for me and a lot of people, it's so these people that are killing many people. You know, I mean, it's really emotional.
Not much is to be expected of you know, an administration that believes, you know, you can be forgiven for the wrongdoings you've done in the past. And that is why I'll still go back to the Buhari-led administration. And I think most Nigerians will not forgive that administration for the mishap they brought on this nation. Because it was through that period that we heard about repentance Boko Haram. You know, they've been, what's the word they use again? So they had been de-radicalized. And then some of them even found their way into the Nigerian military. Do you think someone like that easily leaves what he's been doing that gives him joy, and then you think he has now become part of you? I mean, how do you raise a lion cub in your home and believe, yes, he's going to act like a human being? It doesn't work like that. A lion will always be a lion, a goat will be a goat, and a human being will always be a human being. So when it is time for us to tell the difference and draw the lines, of course you will know, definitely, and that is the result we are saying here. And also, you know, it's just a sad thing that, you know, Onoja is in that position to defend the nonsense that is happening in that area. You know, it's very difficult for you to defend failure. You get to see a lot of things that you even question your own sanity when you get to the corner of your room, or maybe in your bathroom when you are having your bath. You think about what you wrote or what you said, and you are like, no, it shouldn't be like this. But then, this is what we'll continue to see until someone wakes up one day and says, look, enough is enough, and we have to put an end to all of this. And I also want to implore everyone, if you have been saddled with the responsibility of getting some things done, regardless, if you think that it's against the ethics of your job, or maybe it's against, you know, what do we call this? Common sense, okay? Just let it go. There are jobs that is not worth taking that will destroy you at the end of the day, because people, they don't believe some of these press releases have been sent to you to publish or maybe to give out. They believe that's your handwriting. And all that is still coming back to your own table. However, as a serving general in the Nigerian military, if you are behind any of this, if for any reason you are there and you know what is going on to your fellow men, the fallen heroes on the field, just know the idea is coming. You are going to leave that field, go back to your home and think you have become a civilian. But unfortunately, you are not a civilian, because some of these people, they have not forgiven you. They have not forgotten what you've done. We could talk about a Nigerian general who was traveling and was ambushed by some men, and his dead body and his vehicle was dumped in the particular lagoon somewhere. I think that should be around Niger State or thereabouts. The search and rescue took about 3, 4, 5 weeks before they could even locate his exact location. So it means that when you are out of office, you become an average human being. And then all the orderlies that follows you, maybe 5, 10, 6, 7, 8 of them, I mean, there will be an end. Maybe only one of them will remain. Then you will see what exactly we are talking about. You should know that there are Nigerians who don't even have access to all of this. We walk about every day, no security, nothing. But we have decided to place our faith in God and the government. So if the government cannot be trusted with the lives and properties of Nigerian people, then there is a problem. But it's on that note we are going to draw the curtains on this particular topic this morning.